Hi, and welcome to Home, the Second Story. We're two residential architects sharing real conversations with homeowners who've taken on custom home or renovation projects. I'm Marilyn Motinger from Runcible Studios, located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Boston, Massachusetts.
And I'm Sheri Scott of Springhouse Architects in Cincinnati, Ohio. And today we are joined by Cami from California in Ventura County. Welcome, Cami.
Thanks so much for having us, ladies.
Yes,
well, us,
yes.
like me, myself, and I.
The royal
right,
we.
all of you.
Yeah.
That's great. So, Cami, to start out, we just have some quick questions to lay groundwork, and then we'll get into more of the meat of the story. So where is the project located?
The project is located in my kitchen.
Okay.
So it is actually in the house I live in, that I reside in. It's a 1950 home, ranch-style home in the old town portion of Camarillo. It's a little secret. I call it the mullet house because it looks like a typical ranch-style house in the front, but then in the back, it is views to the Pacific Oceans. You can see the Anacapa Islands and, the Santa Monica Mountains, and it's just amazing. So it's business in the front, party in the back.
Sounds awesome. So what was the project? You said your kitchen. Was that the full scope of the project?
That is what it started as, of course. We have lived in our house for about 10 years, and it was a glorious 1990s Home Depot renovation. We are only the third owner of this home. And the previous owner did a lot of DIY and pretty much just on a lower budget. Worked well for them, wasn't my vibe at all. And after 10 years, I asked my husband, I said, really, we've got to get this done. This is happening. And he said, but why are we doing a kitchen remodel? We're going to die in 15 years. And I said, well, because my second husband will really enjoy it,
There you go.
So,
yes.
That's how we embarked on this project.
When did you start your project, and is it complete?
We started the preliminary process probably in August of 2025. We did our due diligence. We had worked with a draftsman before. There were a lot of things in our home we wanted to remodel, so we wanted to get all of the plans done at once so that any of the structural necessities would be addressed head on, and we wouldn't be limited in the future based on the mistakes that we made in the past. So we worked with a draftsman who was a friend and local draftsman. After that, this is the cautionary tale. I did not get a designer. I thought the primary impetus for the kitchen, besides my being tired of the 90s decor, was we needed a new refrigerator.
It's always something like that.
There's always a story like that. And then it got bigger. Yes.
And then my dream refrigerator was a 48-inch Sub-Zero commercial style refrigerator with the glass doors. I'm sure you're very familiar. And so it necessitated us expanding the scope of those cabinets where the refrigerator was. When we got into that, then it became, I wonder if we just need to add some cabinets over here, extend it. And so when we looked at a builder, I had a client whose father-in-law was a builder. And, the changes that he had made to their home when they bought it were really, really nice. It came out great. I loved the look of it. So I'm like, you're it. You're going to be the guy. Great conversation. Came in approximately what I thought. And we started the actual demolition on December 20th of 2025.
Oh, that's interesting. You don't usually start right before Christmas.
I know that doesn't that sound like an odd time to do that?
Yeah.
No, we actually have a cabin up near Mammoth Mountain in California. And so it's kind of a local ski mountain area. And that's where generally my husband and I will spend time with our adult children for the holidays. So that was a natural 2-week diversion where we would not be here for the demolition.
You're still underway, right? That's what we're going to talk about.
99 days.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned that you worked with a draftsman and not a designer. And so did anything change through the project? Did you bring anyone else in? Or are you struggling through on your own?
Oh, Sheri, that was my mistake. I really thought we're just kind of keeping most of the same footprint in the kitchen. And I thought, I got this. I've done a kitchen remodel in the past. This really isn't that big. But it really is. I would have been so well served by a designer and that collaboration ongoing to this day. My business is real estate. I'm a realtor, and I liken it to, look, could you sell your house on your own without a realtor? Absolutely, you could. Is it going to be fun? Not at all. Because the realtor is going to shepherd you down a path and kind of shield you from all of the noise and the decisions on the outside, show you what the red flags are, things that you're going to regret down the road, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that is really what a designer could have done for me in this case. Compound that with that, I have ADD.
So you need someone to help you through all that.
I am now a subject matter expert in quartzite, in sinks. I can tell you exactly what sinks come in a 43-inch size that are double sinks, not mini, by the way. I mean, all of this. So
that's useful, I'm sure, because you can use that in your work, but not ideal because it's taking you away from your work.
And it's just a frustration. The other thing that I think I could really have relied on a designer for was to kind of be the buffer between me and the GC.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I'm having to GC the GC.
Yeah.
And in many cases, just get the subs information myself because the collaboration and coordination is not there.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Nice guy.
Sure.
And the subs are very quality craftsmen, I would say. But knowing what is happening at any specific time is near impossible. Every Monday, I feel like I'm pulling teeth, saying, what's going to happen this week? What's going on?
You're living in the house while it's going on? So are you there every morning with them? Okay.
Super. Yeah.
Yes.
So we like to dive into our big question right away, which you've already anticipated, obviously, which is, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? So it sounds like designer might be one of the things at the top of that list.
Absolutely. I think it would be the top thing.
The top thing. Okay. So before we talk about what other things that might be on that list for you, I'm curious, what would have convinced you of that? So we give that advice all the time, right? Like we tell people all the time, you will want a designer, you will need an architect, but people don't listen. Going back in time, do you think there is anything that anyone could have said that you would have been like, well, yeah, you're right, I should get a designer?
Sigh. I just, actually, if somebody had kind of positioned it in the way that I mentioned, like we're kind of acting as a realtor in a way to guide the process and really buffer you from all of the the noise, I think that would have been very helpful for me.
That's interesting because what you're describing is, someone putting it in a context that makes sense to you. I mean,
Yeah.
being a designer and doing that work is very different than your day-to-day work. So in terms of, I wouldn't understand all the aspects of your day-to-day work, for example. So having someone explain something in a context that, makes more sense would have been helpful, sounds like.
And I think that I did suffer a little bit from, I'm in houses all the time. I know what the styles are. I know what the aesthetic I want. I got this type of thing.
Yeah. And you probably did aesthetically, right? I'm sure it's going to end up being absolutely beautiful, but it's more of the service side, more of the management and the knowledge and all of that. But certainly as a person that, it sounds like you know what you like, you know what you wanted, you know what's going to hold its value. So making the selections wasn't the problem, right? It's actually the management of the project and your time and energy.
A little bit, it was difficult to get the stain for the cabinets correct. Right. And I was told by the general contractor, he will go out into the front yard and he'll mix the stain on site until you're happy with it. And I was like, that is amazing. That is going to be fabulous. We're going to knock this out in one day. Well, that wasn't exactly how it transpired because the stainer was quite sought after and worked in various parts of California. He, came when he had time, took the sample, went home, made some more samples. Then it was another week and a half until he could get them there, which really limited my ability to figure out paint color, which really limited my ability to pick countertops, things of that nature, and flooring.
Yeah. I think that's something that I know Sheri and I do every day is help people navigate. Okay, if we want to work with this stainer, then these are the parameters. It's going to take a week and a half between each one, or a week between each one, or a few days at least, or whatever. So we need to build that in. So we need to start 2 months earlier than it seems reasonable to, because we need to build in that time.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, like what I hear you saying too is that it isn't a problem necessarily that it takes the stainer that long. It's that you didn't know and that you can't plan for it.
Yeah, the expectation of it.
Yeah, and in my career, I work a lot on timelines. That that one thing has to happen before another thing has to happen. And in this instance, the conversations with the GC were like, "Hey, what is happening this week?" And he is like, "Well, did you pick out your flooring?" And then I would have to say, "Sir, I don't have cabinet colors yet. I'm not sure how I can do that."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There was not they're just looking at the end result. And so I think a designer could have maybe curated some choices based on my aesthetic desire and kind of brought those to me.
Absolutely. Yep. That's absolutely what they would do.
Yeah. As opposed to me having to go curate them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what else? I mean, are there other things? Do you feel like you've missed some opportunities? Do you feel like, you're in the middle of things, so you haven't lived with the end result. It's not completely done yet. And by the way, we haven't interviewed someone who's in the middle of their project. So you're a first. Cami.
I want it to be a cautionary tale, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. So what other cautions do you have for everyone listening?
I think that the other thing that a designer could really help with is, we live in a world of instant gratification, and Amazon brings something to our house in 24 to 48 hours. Wayfair brings something to our house in 24 to 48 hours. But a lot of those other materials that need to be sourced sometimes are sitting on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and
that is
you
true.
Can't get them for 8 to 12 weeks.
Right.
I think that is also where I could have had some help, some assistance. And then, all right, well, this is what you really want, my 43-inch double basin sink. And they could say in the beginning, hey, I know you really like that, but that is going to be a tough find in the time frame that you want. Here are some other options that I think might make you happy.
Yeah. And then you're able to then weigh it and say, I mean, I was literally just in a meeting with a client where we were talking about this exact thing, where you say, okay, well, in a perfect world, we would have this, this, and this. But in the world that it exists as it is, we need to prioritize. And suddenly, the sink becomes less important if it means the whole project's going to be delayed by 6 weeks or 6 months because you can't get that sink or whatever. And then you're suddenly like, well, that sink isn't so important. Or you're like, no, that sink is so important that I'm going to delay this whole project and we're not even going to start for 6 months till we have that sink in our hands because it's that important. And either way is fine. But being in the middle of that is really, really hard.
But just giving the options.
That's
and
right.
For me, I am like, well, I don't believe that is the only sink that comes in this size. I have to go down the rabbit hole and find it somewhere.
Yeah.
There is a sink that matches my preferences that has not been discovered yet. Right?
And it might be true.
I doubt it at this point.
Well, not now. Not you've combed the internet, so.
Yeah, and now we're back at the beginning because I ordered this giant sink, but I thought it was a matte black sink, and it's a matte shiny sink, which is not what I want at all. So,
here we go.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
This is all what a designer's expertise could have given me.
Yeah. The work you're doing with the contractor, do you feel like you didn't understand what his full role would be, or do you think your expectations weren't appropriate for expecting him to like fill in all of these gaps, or did you simply not know what it was going to take?
So the last time that I did a kitchen remodel was probably about 15 years ago. And I did kind of use a kitchen designer. They ordered the cabinets, the whole 9 yards. Yep. And then truly a good friend of ours did the GCing, and he was an exceptional general contractor. So he kind of eased us through that and did they worked together to give us some of the options and hey, that's not going to work. I want to let you know what's going to happen if you do X, Y, and Z. And I thought that all general contractors were of that quality. That turns out not to be the case. And communication, my daughter does permit facilitating in LA. And so when I would kind of buffer things off of her, like, hey, is this normal? And she said, yeah, I don't know. They're not really great communicators.
Yeah.
You really have to be on top of them. And so that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting the version I'd had before. So part of it, again, mea culpa, my fault. I didn't do the research. I didn't interview 3 resources. I just jumped right in because I knew this person.
Not that he's dishonest or anything else, right? Like there haven't been those kind of confrontations that you might have found in a internet research or something on him, but maybe better placed questions in the beginning of what does this process really look like and what will I have to do and what will you do, and kind of laying out that groundwork.
That, and then, like a big one that I just heard, maybe I saw it on X, but lien waivers.
Oh yeah, there was a whole thing about liens.
I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I don't have any of those.
Oh yeah,
right. I don't have that. So new fear unlocked.
Yeah, it's not too late to do that. That's easy to catch up on.
Yep, easy to catch up on.
Yeah. So some of these things, and then another friend of mine who had her kitchen done, she was brilliant. She put in the contract that says, hey, if you finish X amount of weeks early, I'll add a bonus. If you finish X amount of weeks late, then I'll get a discount. Brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Maybe a designer could have.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times contractors, of course, they'll take the bonus clause, but they'll of course push back on the cost.
The liquidated damages part.
Yeah, the damages, for so many reasons, and it's so hard to enforce. But just to have something in there to have that conversation, and if he pushes back, then say, what do I get if it's late? Like, how late is reasonable? And have that conversation before the project starts.
Yeah. Little things like, the cabinet maker, great craftsman, again, tech, not his friend. So his CAD drawing ability was left a little bit to be, desired. And when we got to moldings, he was just going to do a very traditional molding. And I said, well, that's not what I wanted. And he said, well, I just assumed because that's what was in the drawing. And, things like that where I had to really push back on it, but it would have been so much easier if it had been part of the original process.
Sure.
What you're highlighting here, and I'm just obviously very excited to be getting this like super in the middle of things experience that you're sharing, is that what a designer or an architect does is so much more than just draw a pretty picture or tell you what tile to choose or whatever. You've named so many things that we do. So, whether it's being that buffer between you and the contractor, whether it's helping, because that contractor is difficult to communicate with to you, they're also difficult for us, but we've got a lot of experience dealing with it, or we have a prior relationship, or there's other ways that we're able to kind of get through that's much more difficult for a homeowner. So whether it's that, or whether it's, the shop drawings, that's what you're just describing right now, where we would be reviewing those and we would say, no, this isn't the right trim before it gets to the point where he's making it or installing it. And I think that's, if there's one thing I could just underline, I mean, we're in the middle of our conversation, but I'm like, pause, underline, and say, that we do so much more than just make a pretty picture or, talk about where rooms go or whatever. And you're highlighting all those things right now. It's the service, it's the communication, it's the timelines. It's also the knowledge to know like when something is BS and when we can call it out,
That's a great point, Marilyn, because a lot of the times when I'm being told something, I think the first time the fabricator walked through, there's the whole, I guess, quartz is not always all the way through. Sometimes it's printed on top. You have to have it mitered. I didn't want that look. I wanted, but here in Southern California, we do 2 cm as opposed to 3 cm, which they do in other parts of the country. And so mitering is really part of it. It's just how that miter occurs, right? And he was saying, well, we just normally do this. And I had a hard time looking at him, having met him for the first time and saying, is that really how you do things here? Or are you just lazy?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, but what is the easiest for you? Like, I keep getting, well, we'll do quarter round down here. And I hate quarter round so much. I don't want it anywhere in my kitchen at all. It would be like flooring with transitions. That's easy for them, but it's not the look I want.
So I tweeted this the other day. I don't know if you saw it on there, Cami, but just a reminder that what generally subs and GCs are going to recommend is the thing that's easiest for them.
Yeah.
Not because they are bad or because they're trying to sneak one by. They're just thinking like, here, I've done this before. I know how to execute this. This is what I'm going to recommend. And the good ones will then, if you push back, the good ones will say, well, I can do it this other way, or I haven't done that before, but let me get someone in here who does, or whatever. That's what the good ones say. It's the bad ones who say, no, you can't do that. There's no possible way ever. And you're like, yeah, but we're just talking about shoe mold here. We're not talking about something like structural or something related to like code. We're talking about something that, there's a way to do this. You just don't want to.
Exactly.
And we have those conversations all the time.
Yeah. And we also, there are also a significant amount of language barriers out
That's
here
true.
as well.
Yeah.
I have some lovely gentlemen, very hardworking. They are doing an excellent job. But besides hi and thank you, I cannot have a conversation with them at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is frustrating. It would be so great if I had a designer who would be able to set that expectation every single day with their foreman.
I don't have any other languages other than English. But what does help is having really good drawings because everyone can read pictures. And I
Yes.
think in a world like in Boston, there's usually multiple languages being spoken on a job site, but we can all look at the drawings and we can say, this is what we're doing here. And when they're really detailed and when they're organized, that's very helpful. But the language barrier thing is real, and that can be a real challenge. Communication's hard enough as it is, and then you're not
Yeah.
speaking the same language. That can be really tough.
Yeah, and when they're the only people in your house,
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know. I gotta talk to your boss, I guess, before we can move forward.
And there's plenty of situations where when you go to hire the builder or the sub, you're talking to the guy who is the foreman or the owner. You're not talking to the guys who are actually going to do the work. So it's actually one of the important questions to ask when you're hiring a builder. Who is going to be on my job site every day that I can communicate with, or that my architect or designer can? Who is that person? And if it's not you, I need to meet that guy before I hire you, because that's the person you're going to interface with the most.
Yeah. And see, you ladies would have thought of those questions.
Yeah,
it's true.
And to know that chain of command, right? Because
Yes.
really, it's tough on a job site when you have, flip the script where we have a difficult owner and the owner is communicating directly with the subs. That's a recipe for disaster also, because it really should all go through the general contractor. So, having that third party on site to kind of help that communication go in the right direction is important too.
Well, and I'm a little embarrassed, but I mean, it just is a reality. I fear I may not have shown up as the best version of myself with some of the subs because, you're at a heightened level of stress.
It is very emotional.
And then I have taken, time to go pick out counters 45 minutes away in the area where all the counters are. And the stainer has taken the only sample with him because, of course, he needed a sample to be able to do, but I did not know.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So I kind of had a little meltdown to the point where I had to profusely apologize multiple times throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that happens all the time, honestly, because construction is an emotional thing. It's emotional for everyone. It's emotional for the homeowners. I've seen all sorts of things happen on a job site and not an owner was anywhere near them. There's guys getting all worked up about things, or somebody getting mad at somebody else, or lots of passions and lots of, things going on, because it's hard to do physical work. It's hard to do these things. It's hard. The subs are on a job site with other guys that may not know. Other subs are getting in their way. The painter's irritated at the carpenter who's cutting something and it's getting sawdust in the air, and the painter, like all of that is already happening. So you're stepping into that, into an already heightened place. It isn't like this smooth sailing, beautiful thing. And then you as homeowner walk in and like stir them all up. I mean, it's much more nuanced than that. It's it's already a heightened place. And then you're coming in and you're like, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know what's going on.
Also, I'm trying to live in my house, and now you have cut all of the water to the front of my house. Not even like the temporary setup is working. Now you have also cut the electricity, so we can't like enjoy the outside TV or anything.
Yep.
This last weekend, my husband lost his mind, and so then I'm the buffer between that and the like trying to
Mhm.
So yes, these are all things that I would highly recommend. That it would be so nice just to make one phone call to the designer and to say,
And then we take it from
"Hey,
there.
yeah, could you please, make sure that this happens, or could you please request this, or
Right.
so."
Well, and frankly, it's not a good sign when a contractor is okay working without a designer. And that's my hot take. I used to be a contractor. I know it from that side. And when I was being trained, that was always the first thing. Where are the drawings and who is in charge of these drawings? Designer, architect, whatever. A good general contractor wants that person because that person is handling the owner and handling all this stuff while the builder can build. If I don't have that person, if I'm the builder and I don't have that person who's running interference like that, then I'm pulled off my job all the time and I can't manage my guys because I'm focused on the owner. That's a real job. And
Yeah.
so I just want to say, it is a good sign when a builder says, I'm not going to call your job until you have drawings, or, I don't work on jobs if there's not a designer here. That's actually a really good sign. That shows a level of professionalism.
And I think he was okay with the drawings that we had.
Yeah.
And like we did the drawing, we did the engineering all kind of before we even started. But it was, I mean, God love him, nice guy. It's going to be great. I'm never going to mention any names, but I think he's been to my job site twice.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what the contract is you had with him, right? And what responsibility he has during construction.
And Sheri, that's another thing. Like, I would never have known to say, hey, in our contract, I need monthly site meetings with you, not the foreman.
So that's interesting.
We do weekly.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with monthly at this point. Yeah.
And so that's a difference between maybe getting a draftsman to quote unquote do your drawings, right? And they do a good job and the design is good. But it's a big difference between getting the drawings and the design done and hiring a full service architect. Huge. And this is exactly the difference we're talking about.
Yep.
So Cami, what's your path forward? You're in the middle. Are you in the middle? Do you think you're 50% through? Where are you and what's your path forward?
If we were talking about a pregnancy, I am in month 8 on bed rest and can't get comfortable.
That paints a picture.
That certainly does.
It's so close, but I am definitely a stranger in my house right now, and it's all kind of coming to. I would say it's going to be another month if we're lucky. Another month if we're lucky. Yeah. And part of it's my fault. I don't have fixtures chosen yet because I still don't have a sink.
Oh, yeah.
Well, your fault, relatively speaking, though. I mean, if you're not told when to do it or you're not, that's hard. That's really hard.
Or if I just didn't marry myself to a 43-inch double bowl sink.
Well, yes, there's that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got a month to go, we're hoping.
Yeah.
You're going to move in. All this is going to be a distant memory, hopefully. You're going to listen to this podcast in 6 months, maybe, and you're going to be like, oh, I remember that. That was awful.
Yeah.
But part of the reason why, when you and I first talked, that you said that you wanted to do this, because I said, we've never interviewed someone who's in the middle of a project. Yeah. Usually and you mentioned that it was important to have this conversation because it's very fresh for you. And maybe in 6 months, you're going to be kind of like, we made it to the end. It's fine. So I think that's important.
I do too. I mean, if you bring it back to the pregnancy analogy, and sorry for any homeowners out there who, are not having babies or experience that. Once you've had a baby, you forget all that horrible part. And after, you would do it all over again, right? But you forget all of kind of the crummy part in between. And so I do I do think it's important for people to understand exactly why a designer is important. Because I'm probably going to spend that much over just because of time frame necessity or
Yes.
poor design choices anyway.
That's an important point right there.
Yeah. It's probably all going to be more, and it's my own darn fault.
You haven't disclosed much about the budget, and we don't have to talk about numbers, but are you close to your original budget, or is that another thing that went sideways?
I think that, I have not been asked for more or any add-ons yet. I have been asked for payment, progress payments, and they've been based on work completed so far. So I think that's been fair. Flooring was additional. The countertops were additional. I did not get an allowance for the countertops.
Was that a surprise, or did you know that in the contract?
Actually don't think it was, because I couldn't tell them what I wanted at that point, because I didn't have a designer to say, hey, these are your best options, etc.
Yeah, or this is a good placeholder.
Yeah. Also, the contractor knows you need countertops of some kind. Like, put something in there to hold the place,
Yeah, and that didn't happen. And again, just somebody to, I guess I could have run it through ChatGPT and asks for feedback on my bid, but this is also where a designer could have said, hey, maybe this, what is the additional that they put on top of everything? The P&E or whatever.
Oh, overhead and profit, OHP.
Yes.
Oh,
that, this seems a bit high, or because I just didn't know. Right.
Yeah.
And especially now that I seem to be doing a lot of the GC for the GC.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're earning
He should
that
be paying you
profit for him.
Wondering if we're going to get a discount.
So I know you're still underway. Obviously, we keep saying that, but I'm wondering if you still can share with us something that either is already completed or that you're anticipating that you're just going to love. Something that you're like, that we want to end on, this is our last question. We want to end on a high note. Like, what is something that you just love?
So one of the things that has transpired was we did take down a wall and opened up, the kitchen breakfast area into the dining living room. Because we have that party in the back view, we have a ton of natural light. There are no window coverings in the kitchen. And the kitchen and the cabinetry, they just got stained and painted the last couple of days. Oh my God. I'm so in love with it. And I think that the countertop that we've chosen, which is like it's a quartzite, I can't remember the name of it, something with gold. And it is going to be absolutely gorgeous in there. So I am very excited about that, and storage that I've never had. So I can see the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the upgrade in our life that it's going to make. And just really anticipating just being able to make a cup of coffee, have a little entertainment center, and all of the outlets that I need, all of the cabinet storage that I need. I'm just obsessed.
That's a great spot to send us out on a high note. So,
yeah.
Cami, we can't thank you enough for being willing to share your story in the middle of things and to share all of this for other folks who might be able to be saved from making some mistakes.
Yeah. My advice to anybody would be just, interview 3 designers, maybe different levels of service that they're going to be able to give you, and work with somebody that's going to fit your budget, because otherwise it is going to be a very stressful 3 to 6 months.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So,
well, thank you so much.
And thank you. I love listening to the podcast because I've learned a lot just even going through this process. And one of the things I just heard on your recently released snack size was, do more than you originally planned, if it makes sense.
Yeah, put more in the shopping cart. It's easier to check out with more in the cart. Yep.
And that's what we did, a couple of things. So
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
great advice,
Nice.
ladies.
Well, thank you so much, Cami. Really appreciate
Thank you
it.
for the opportunity.
you.
I hope you all have an amazing day.
Well, that was awesome.
Wow. That was awesome. Made me feel so good about the work I do.
Yeah. And also, like, for the audience, I feel like we should just say we didn't tell her to say those things.
Not
Even
any
though
of
it sounds very much like what we always
exactly
say.
what we preach. Yes.
Yep. Because turns out what we preach is based in, real things.
In reality. So I think that I found my new tagline for my business.
Oh, yeah?
Shepherd and Shield. I'm just kidding about the tagline, but I just loved her describing how she felt a designer could have helped her to shepherd her through the project and to shield her from all of these things that she is having to figure out and do and make mistakes and correct them and figure out the timeline. She just has an entire job. And we've said this so many times that if you don't want to do it yourself on your project, if you don't know the things, if you don't have the time, then you need to pay somebody to do that job because the job exists. It is there. Those things need to be done.
Those things need to be done. And what did she say towards the end? She said it's going to cost her the same amount as if she would have hired a
Exactly.
designer. So every
Yes.
time we hear this time and time and time again, people don't hire a designer and architect. They try to muddle through on their own. It takes longer. It costs more. They spend more than if they would have just hired the person to do it in the first place, and they get a worse product. I don't understand, world. I don't understand.
And all of the stress. It costs the exact same, or you'll save money and all of the stress. Like,
it's better. The project is better because you're not
It's
making all these
better.
weird compromises. And I think that's one thing that, that's why I said that about general contractors, is that good ones know that and they want an architect or designer on board. They really
They do. Yeah.
Because that person who's shepherding and shielding means that the contractor doesn't have to do that. The contractor needs to build and manage, right? So they're building, they're managing, the architect is shepherding and shielding. And those are real roles.
They are real roles. Yes. That contractor doesn't need to be figuring out the stain guy taking a week and a half, right? And where the sample is and why they would get 3 samples, not just one. Like, come on. Oh, so many small things that add up to be real complications.
Real complications, real delays, and just very agonizing. Like it's something we've said a million times too. It doesn't have to be this way. It just doesn't. And I know that sometimes it can seem like when people do hire a designer and architect and they spend the money for it and all that kind of stuff and things go pretty smoothly, they're like, oh, well, I could have done this without them. You're like, no, the reason it went smoothly is because they were there. You didn't see all the disasters that were averted because they didn't happen.
Right. And the other thing that I will say is that having a third party on site in those, what we would have as weekly meetings, which we talked a little bit about, it just kind of serves 2 purposes to me. It keeps people honest because they're not going to tell you what is the easiest and say, oh, this is the only way to do it. Get on board or get out kind of thing. And it keeps accountability. Every single week we're saying, okay, you said this last week. Where is it? Or even better, it just makes it go smoother because the contractors and the subcontractors, it all rolls downhill and they all know, well, we're having a meeting on Tuesday. We better get this done and figured out before that meeting. Because remember last week, we didn't have an answer. So there's so many things that it helps. And I'm not saying we control the subs at all, but when you have a process and you have something on paper and people are coming every single week, it magically goes smoother.
It keeps the for lack of a better word, pressure on the situation. Everybody gets things done faster when there's a deadline. And the same goes for us too. So when I have a pile of stuff on my desk during construction that's about a certain project, if I've got a job site meeting the next day, I'm cranking through that stuff to make sure that it's done and ready to go for that meeting.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a meeting the next day, would I be putting the same level of priority on it? No, that's human nature. I'm going to put the priority on the thing that is, sort of got the most organization to it, the most pressure to it, and that kind of stuff. I also really liked her point about instant gratification. That's something I've been thinking about. And I think as we, venture further into the impacts of AI on our processes of designing and that kind of thing, I think it's going to become even more of a conversation. So now we're seeing it where someone sends us an AI rendering or says, well, AI can design this. I don't need you. And I'm like, okay, well, design is a big part of what we do. And I don't want to get into an AI conversation just now. It's a little off topic for what we're talking about now. But the point is that AI might make the rendering, but it's not doing all the other stuff that Cami was bringing up. So dealing with the management or figuring out, well, the sink isn't available or whatever. And it's also the sense that everything's available instantly. Just have AI do it. Just order it from Amazon. And that's not the reality when you're dealing with these projects. It's just not. And when the more people sort of are getting used to that and expect that, the more shocking it is for them to enter into a process where that's not true.
And even more reason to have processes and realistic timelines, right? And sit down at the beginning and not just say, oh yeah, I'll tear these walls out next week and then we'll get going. Let's figure out where the sink is coming from. Yeah. Like let's figure that out before we order our countertops and before we get a glossy sink instead of a matte sink. Like those are big deals and they're setbacks. They're setbacks emotionally, they're setbacks time-wise, they're setbacks financially. And they're really small things, but they all add up into, this is a kitchen renovation, right? And she thinks it's going to end up taking 6 months.
Yeah, it's wild. I think that's another point. So, she mentioned she worked with a draftsman at the beginning, which is fine. That's a viable way to work. But what was not included with those drawings was all the selections. So, and that's the part that takes the longest sometimes. Because when you're doing the selections, and by that, what we mean is, the colors of things, the actual countertop material, the actual light fixtures, the actual plumbing fixtures, the actual sink, the actual appliances. When you just have placeholders in there, you still have a ton of work to do to figure out exactly what that thing is that goes there. And by the way, suddenly if that 43-inch sink or whatever she's, sort of talking about is not available and we need to do a 36-inch sink, well, that means that we have to change all the cabinetry. So I want to know that at the beginning. I want to have that figured out at the beginning. And I think a lot of contractors take a drafted set of drawings and say, well, this looks done. And they're like, we'll do the selections along the way. Well, that does not work.
It does not work.
Because all those selections impact the design.
I know. And maybe we do a disservice using the word selections, which is just jargon.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's not only selecting what you like, because she even said, oh, I thought I could do it because I know what I like. I know what holds its value. I know all these things. And most of the people I work with also know what they want it to look like and what colors they like. It's not that. It is, does it fit your budget? Can you get it in the timeline? Does it literally fit? Does the sink fit in the cabinet that you have under it? There are so many things that get coordinated with that among different subs. And, the contractor has some responsibility in that, but the selections process is not just picking out what you like on the storyboard, right? Which, like we said, AI can do. Any decorator can do that. Anybody can pick out what they like.
That's paint by number, and that's not what's going on here.
Not in a custom.
It's custom, yeah, even when it's just a kitchen, right? There's thousands of decisions in a kitchen.
So many things. It's a big one.
It is. And I think your point about us calling it selections is really a really valid one, because that makes it sound as if it's just painting by number, picking
Right.
one thing or the other. It's kind of like when
Yes.
people get a car and they're getting a new car and they say, okay, well, I want this model and this make. Do you want the tan interior or do you want the gray interior? And it's a selection. You're done. But in our world, if you choose the tan versus the gray, maybe the tan is going to take an extra 6 months. And if you choose that, then that's going to change the size of then we can only fit 4 seats in the car instead of 6 or whatever. Like maybe there's other implications. And
Right.
it isn't just paint by number. It isn't just selecting among very controlled, not like when you're working with a production builder where those selections are very, very controlled because they all
Right.
work with each other.
Right.
When you're in full custom mode, or when you're not, like if you work with a kitchen designer who says you have to choose from this stuff in this catalog, then yeah, it is just selecting. But if you're going full custom and you've got your sink from over here and your Sub-Zero from over there and your countertops from 45 minutes away and whatever else, then yeah, someone's got to pull all that together.
Yeah. And your gold faucet and your gold pulls, are they the same gold? Like there are 25 different golds. So,
Yes.
there's so much to coordinate.
That leads to one of her last points that she made, which was about, she suggested getting 3 different quotes from different designers who have different levels of service.
And see what you want to pay for and what they offer. Yes, I liked that a lot. Mm-hmm.
And because we're always saying around here, we are not saying that everybody needs full custom.
Right.
That's like, you can work with a draftsman, you can do, but if you do, you have to understand what you're getting. You have to set your expectations and you have to understand that full service, if you aren't paying for full service, somebody else is doing that work.
Right.
And so I appreciated that. And I think what I would add to that is just that people are realistic about their time commitment, their ability to make decisions. If they're working and kids and whatever else, do they really have 20 hours a week? Or, well, that's what it would take us, but it's going to take them 60 because they've got to learn all this stuff. And that feeling that they don't know if it's the right decision or not. Oh,
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So anyway, on that note.
So I do. I wish her so much luck. Like it just seems like she has seems like she has a good outlook on it now. I'm sure she's had very emotional moments because it can be a very emotional process, especially when things aren't going well and they're in your home. So, it sounds like her path forward is really just kind of hanging on and getting through
in
it.
There. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on Home, the Second Story. If you'd like to come on the show and share your story, email us at admin@htsspodcast.com. We'd love to have you as a guest. Be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get podcasts and follow us on Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Home, the Second Story podcast. Feel free to share this episode with a friend. Contact information for both of our architects are in our show notes. And don't miss future episodes. Follow or subscribe to our show for free in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.